Yep, the title is still somehow right. The golden age of the Super Mario Bros. Franchise is upon us. After playing the first 5 years of this special franchise, it really has set the standard of what to expect for the future. And let me just tell you, that standard is low. Luckily, we made it past whatever that is. And seeing how diverse the franchise is becoming, there's a lot to unpack here. You already know the rules for this amazing feat from the previous episode, but how I made it here without taking 3 years of a vacation still baffles me. So without further ado, the idea that's about to cost me the rest of my life continues. Let's go into the year 1985 for the next 5 years of the franchise. God, it still just feels so corporate to say that. Wrecking Crew for the NES. Now, this is Wrecking Crew, not... This game is really interesting to me. Comparatively to Versus Wrecking Crew's competitive play, this game is much more puzzle-based, and you can definitely feel it here. The gameplay loop here is extremely addictive, and though it's incredibly memorization-based and can get pretty difficult in later phases, it turns out to be pretty damn fun. Mostly. I think Wrecking Crew was the first time I realized I just don't like platformer puzzle games. As stated before, this game feels incredibly arcadey. There aren't really any new enemies or ideas introduced throughout the game to make it feel fresh. Even the music in this game, while notable, is the same 2 tunes repeated over and over again. I already thought I was going insane from playing Donkey Kong 17 times. Every phase does have a new level layout, which is a nice touch, but it doesn't help when you realize the gameplay loop prefers memorization and speed over puzzle solving. I did get pretty far in this game though, only peacefully giving up at phase 18 when I realized Form and Spike and the evil wrenches are specifically designed to f you over. No, dude, I'm f***ing done, dude. Overall, this game is pretty fun, don't get me wrong, but also pretty damn lackluster for a full release, which is ironic considering its spiritual beta versus Wrecking Crew came right before it. What happened? How did we get from Wrecking Crew to the greatest gift of gaming? I'm so sorry, we are not talking about you yet. Super Mario Bros. For the NES. Everybody knows about the Super Mario Bros. Even Grandma knows about the Super Mario Bros. This is truly the pinnacle of platformers, and especially Mario ones at that. We've come such a long way from Donkey Kong Jr. on the Atari 2600. I mean, come on, what is there to say about this game that hasn't already been said before? The physics, the controls, the straightforward level design, the sprite work, the music, and the enemy variations all make for such an iconic and surprisingly modern experience. Ironically, this playthrough marks the first time I've actually beaten this game without the usage of warp zones. Yeah, I am a real Mario fan. What about it? Without the use of warp zones, you really do see the little secrets of this game, whether it be the coin heavens, the grade levels, or the underground sections, and the entire game culminates to perfection. You already know this is the Mario title. After all, I wouldn't be talking about a soon-to-be 18th copy of Donkey Kong if this game didn't exist. If only we were so lucky. Whatever, at least it's not just another port of Donkey Kong Jr. or Golf. 4! Did I get you a second time? It might look like I vomited on the screen, but nope, that's just Golf for the NEC PC 8001. This honestly plays almost identical to the NES version, but... the holes are the same, the playstyle's the same. You know, the more I play different versions of Golf, the more I'm starting to feel like I'm starting to be convicted of some horrible crime. All things considered, I actually slightly enjoyed this game, primarily because I'm finally getting good at golf. It's still not stroke and match golf, but I'd still call it a solid experience. Let's just get out of here before they find out about those crimes. It's really like it never left. Donkey Kong on MSX. This is Microsoft's second attempt at Donkey Kong on their home computers, and well, talk about improvement. This is an awful port of Donkey Kong. I really didn't think it could get much worse. Similar to most Donkey Kong failures, Mario is ridiculously large on the screen and has an incredibly unforgiving hitbox, which 9 times out of 10 results in instantaneous death. It doesn't help that the physics are also pretty off, and Mario is a lot heavier in this game, leading to almost pixel-perfect jumps for most of the game. This makes the game inherently difficult purely because the design is poor. Thanks, Microsoft, now you've ruined 2 of my favorite franchises. I also noticed that this port of Donkey Kong uses the 50M variant with conveyor belts similar to Crazy Kong. Yeah, because that's the idol I would want to follow for game design. Overall, this is an embarrassment of a port. I'd rather play the Intellivision port, and we already know how I feel about the Barbie company. Oh boy, what could the next game be? Are you kidding me? Donkey Kong on the ZX Spectrum. I feel like I just got whiplash. Yes, your eyes aren't blind from watching me rant about Donkey Kong for the last minute. This is literally the exact same port as the MSX, with all of its fun brought alongside it. I really did not think it could get much worse. This port also marks the first time I had to play with a keyboard, strictly because the gamepad option just doesn't work. The biggest difference here is really... Whoa, Mario, when did you get so caked up? I didn't know the money from Super Mario Bros. Was enough to get you a BBL. Anyways, you already know this is a pretty rough port of Donkey Kong. At least I could just take a breather knowing we're at least finally done with Donkey Kong for a bit. That may have been the fastest breath of my life. Donkey Kong on the Amstrad CPC. Yeah, this is rough, but you know what? At least it isn't the MSX version. If Donkey Kong being a Cyclops or Mario phasing through reality wasn't enough for you, just listen to this beautiful music. Yeah! Similarly to the Spectrum and MSX port, Mario is still way too wide and feels stupidly heavy to control. I will say I didn't have as many physics-related issues with this port, but who cares? This game is still barely passable. It's kind of like Donkey Kong for arcade systems, but that's like saying Mario Brothers on the Game & Watch is Mario Brothers on the NES. You're right. This is a Mario. Wait a minute. Donkey Kong on the Commodore 64. Anybody else getting deja vu? Squared? Not only is this the second port of Donkey Kong on the Commodore 64, but it also is a direct clone of the Amstrad CPC port, minus the slight injury to my ears. There's really not much more to say here. This game's just kinda there. It's more forgettable than Donkey Kong in the TI-99, which I'm sure you forgot right up until I said that. Golf on the Famicom disk system. Well, it's golf. No, really, it's golf on the NES on a disc. Nothing is different here. The game plays identically to how it did in 1984. They could have at least added the music from Stroke and Match Golf, but alas, real strokers don't win today. Well, I hope you enjoyed the last 20 seconds because that's all you're getting from Golf on the Famicom disk system versus Super Mario Bros. For Versus Systems. Oh boy, Versus Systems are back. I'm starting to see a pattern here. I can't lie to you, when I first thought that this was just Super Mario Bros. With a fresh coat of paint, but boy, was I wrong. This game is amazing. Not only is this a beautiful reskin of the beloved title with new font, sprites, music, and even a really odd extended ending in which the toads are flying, but the stages have major differences too. This game wildly ramps up the difficulty from the original, makes you go toe-to-toe with tricky jumps, intense timing, and unrelenting enemy placement. Honestly, for a huge Mario fan like me, someone who just completed Super Mario Bros. For the first time without warp zones, I genuinely really liked this change. The game feels much more arcadey, but in a way that genuinely can be mastered. I'm looking at you, Wrecking Crew. For me, this is a weirdly massive improvement over the original and comes to be one of my favorite games I've played yet. It's genuinely a shame that such an underrated port of this title was overlooked because it was exclusive to arcades. It'd be an even bigger shame if there was a sequel to Super Mario Bros. That cranked this idea to the maximum and pushed people over the edge. Oh, Super Mario Bros. 2, wait a minute. We all know the very unhidden secret about this game, so let's just get it out of the way. Super Mario Bros. 2 is not actually Super Mario Bros. 2. Alright, there's gotta be one guy who just pissed his pants, right? We'll get to why Nintendo was correct in assuming this game would fail in the US in a minute, but we need to talk about how absolutely gorgeous this game is. Who knew it could get better than Versus Super Mario Bros.? The returning coat of paint from the Super Mario Bros. Engine is spectacular here, and even the extended ending from Versus Super Mario Bros. Returns again, for some reason. Gameplay-wise, the best way I've heard this game described is as such. As I continued to play, I found that Super Mario Bros. 2 asked me again and again to take a leap of faith that resulted in my immediate death. This was not a fun game to play. It was punishment. Undeserved punishment. What the f***? Who in their right mind would ever describe a fucking Mario game like that? Have you ever wondered what it would be like to play a Kaizo Mario game in 1986? Just play Super Mario Bros. 2! This game is ridiculously cheap with its difficulty. You've got troll blocks, poison mushrooms, warp zones that send you backwards, and unpredictable piranha plants, all of which exist purely to make the game unfairly difficult. I enjoyed the challenge and made sure to time my jumps carefully and thoroughly, but God, may the souls that play this game without save states rest in peace. Versus Super Mario Bros. At least had a familiarness to the difficulty in which you could master. This is just random bullshit. go! There's also the infamous post-story World 9, which purely exists as an unfinished, glitchy mess reference to the World -1 glitch from Super Mario Bros. Gee, I sure wonder why this would have failed in the US. Overall, I genuinely enjoyed this game, but this is not a game I'd recommend playing unless you want undeserved punishment. I guess we really haven't come that far from Donkey Kong on the Atari 2600, huh? Oh great, the problem child that follows me everywhere is back. Super Mario Bros. On the Game & Watch. That duo was like peanut butter and jelly, only if I shit my brains out on top of it. I genuinely enjoyed my time with this game. Alright, relax, I still don't like Game & Watch, put those pitchforks down. The gameplay, albeit butchered and an auto-scroller due to hardware limitations, is pretty similar, so I can at least give it that. I will say though, this title is pretty addicting, and though there are definitely better Game & Watch titles, I enjoyed this game and played it for much longer than I initially thought. Super Mario Bros. Special for the Sharp X1. Yeah, this is special alright. If you're confused what this title is, I don't blame you. It's essentially if Super Mario Bros. And Mario Bros. Special had a weird mushroom-shaped Russian bootleg child. You might be thinking, how does that work? It doesn't. You'd think this was a simple port of Super Mario Bros., but yeah, genealogy doesn't really work that way. Not only are the levels completely redesigned and also partially stolen from Versus Super Mario Bros. And the Lost Levels, but there's lots of new special additions to this game. You've got the hammer and barrels from Donkey Kong, sidesteppers from Mario Bros., and even falling icicles. Yeah, you thought icicles originated in Super Mario Maker 2? That game doesn't have special in it, does it? But let's not kid ourselves here. This game takes no shape of a good game. Obviously. I mean, hell, it trips over itself most frames, especially when scrolling screens, which was the cause of most of my deaths here. The music in this game also sounds about as abhorrent as Donkey Kong on the Amstrad CPC. Don't think about it. On top of the game practically choking on itself, this game is ridiculously hard, almost mirroring the Lost Levels with terrible enemy placement, pixel-perfect jumps, and unforgiving screen scrolls. This must be that special undeserved punishment they were talking about. Honestly though, at least the ending is rewarding. It takes the ending from Versus Super Mario Bros. Again, but at least it congratulates... Wait a minute. Congratulations? Are you serious? Congratulations? Just remember, this is an official Nintendo product, by the way. In theory, this game could have been awesome. I mean, come on, a Nintendo game on PC? That's practically unheard of. Well, you know, one exception. In practice, though, not so good. I am a teacher, Super Mario... Let's try that again. I am a teacher, Super Mario sweater for the Famicom Disk System is... Alright man, I give up. This game, ironically, isn't really much of a game. It was actually made specifically to teach Japanese kids how to knit. One tiny problem though, believe it or not, I don't know Japanese. I could not get the hang of this game for the life of me. I spent nearly an hour attempting to learn Japanese and passed by the very, very painfully long loading screens, only for me to get stuck at this screen. At least I don't have that injury in my ears anymore from Donkey Kong on the Amstrad CPC. Guess what? I finally learned how to knit. This game, in theory, made some pretty cool sweaters, so I'll give it that, but I don't think this game's for me. All Night Nippon Mario Bros. For the Famicom Disk System. At first glance, this might just seem like it's another Versus Super Mario Bros. Release with its graphical overhaul and stolen levels from the Lost Levels, but wait, is that former President Barack Obama? So this is one of those weird ports, kind of like Donkey Kong 3 Daigyakushu. This entire port is an advertisement for the Japanese talk show All Night Nippon, which... Why? That's the equivalent to if one day Nintendo just decided to release Super Mario Bros. Jimmy Fallon Edition for the US. The weirdest part about this game is that it isn't even a bad port. I mean, it's just Super Mario Bros. Again with the f***ing Star of David as the Starman. All in all, the only changes really boil down to different sprite changes, but hey, at least this marks the third time I've beaten Super Mario Bros. Without the usage of warp zones. I'm really making my way as a true Mario fan. Golf Japan course for the Famicom Disk System. Oh hey, look at that. This time you actually play as Mario. Why did it take 4 ports to finally get that? So you're never going to believe what this game is slightly an improvement over. Alright, let's be honest, Super Dodgeball did have some room for improvement, let's be fair. Unsurprisingly, this is yet another version of golf. It plays virtually the same, with some slight physics improvements when swinging, and still lacks the hitting music seen in Stroke and Match Golf. By Nintendo logic, we should get that in the next port though. Overall, I mean, it's still golf. It's still making me think about those crimes. But hey, at least we're done with golf games for right now, let's just move on. Golf USA course for the Famicom Disk System. 2 golf ports in a row. This is actually a cry for help. This game, oh my god, wait, it's not just golf for once. This is actually a drastically different title compared to the previous entry. This game combines the 2 screens from the original golf game and allows you to switch between the map and controlling Mario interchangeably, and this is a very welcome change. One of my biggest issues with the original game was that it took a ridiculous amount of time to properly line up a shot, and here it just feels much more lucrative. On top of that, there's different hit speeds, trickier and more unique holes, better wind, improved putting mechanics, and my god, we finally have music. See, what I say, Nintendo logic always proves me right. With this game, I genuinely believe we have finally surpassed stroke and match golf. This is really impressive, especially for a golf game during this time, and overall, I had a blast with this game. However, let's just continue on before Nintendo releases the 3rd fucking golf game in a row. You know what? I honestly wish it was golf again. Yume Kojo Doki Doki Panic for the Famicom Disk System. Now, I know what you're thinking. This isn't a Mario game. Well, yeah, you're right. No, but in all seriousness, let's skip the BS here. We all know the truth about this game. This is the game Nintendo stole to become what we now know as Super Mario Bros. 2 here in the US, and this might as well be a Super Mario Bros. 2 beta. This game is ridiculously unpolished. Some of the animations are glitchy, there's no run button to control speed, and grass is black in this version? Ironically, this game was not only designed as a clone of Super Mario Bros., but also based on another Japanese TV show like All Night Nippon. Fool me twice, shame on me. This is also ironically the first time we see many of Mario's iconic enemies, such as the Shy Guys, Birdo, Ninjas, and Phanto, which Nintendo completely ripped for Super Mario Bros. 2. I guess it's technically not plagiarism if you steal from yourself. Overall, this game is fine. It's definitely a very early version of Super Mario Bros. 2, but god, I am just itching to talk about how weird Super Mario Bros. 2 is. Let's just hurry and move on. Famicom Grand Prix F1 race. Hey, look, technically the first Mario Kart game. A top-down racer is certainly an interesting approach for Mario Kart, but this game is actually really cool. Off the bat, I'm not sure if it's because of how many copies of Donkey Kong and Golf that I've played, but this is a great change of pace. I'm not exactly sure why Nintendo went the direction of an F1 racer, but the driving mechanics are extremely well thought out, with pit stops, tire traction, and body damage being a massive part of the speedy races here. Each course feels incredibly unique with new colors, bridges, and difficulty spikes at every corner, and it made this game feel incredibly fun to master. Alright, my time is finally up. It's time to be truthful. This game is far from perfect. First off, the difficulty here is ridiculous. Since the other drivers never used the pit stops, you really only have 2 options to win. Be absolutely pixel perfect in every turn you make, or play until you have enough money to just buy a better car. See, Nintendo was advertising for pay-to-win games, even in 1987. On top of the difficulty, this game has such little variation in carts and stages. I do like how each stage is relatively unique, but each change mostly just boils down to either different turns or a bridge. Wow, really revolutionary stuff. Next you're gonna tell me there's only 3 car types. Okay, I didn't actually mean that. This game isn't the worst, and for being a first shot at a kart racer, it tries. I mean, hey, at least it's not another copy of Donkey Kong. You've got to be f***ing kidding me. It's back. It's not really better than ever. It's Donkey Kong for the Famicom Disk System. Like Golf, this is simply a re-release of the NES version, but you bet your sweet ass I finished the game the whole way through. The only difference that I noticed here was the score text, which was yellow instead of the original game's white. This game was the same price as the original. 3 years after the original was released. That's the Nintendo experience for you. Famicom Grand Prix 2 Hot Rally 3D for the Famicom Disk System. Man, that is really a mouthful, huh? This is the Mario Kart world of the Famicom Disk System. For the ones who have had sex before, that translates to, instead of racing similar to its predecessor, you race through rally checkpoints. I adore this game. The rallies are stupidly addictive. I could just spend hours rallying alongside the slightly nauseating but beautiful 3D effect here. I can no longer hear colors. On top of that, the music is sweet chiptune NES perfection, and it culminates to be one of my favorite soundtracks in this catalog so far. Just hearing the music and sound effects flow through you as you're cruising through each checkpoint is so damn satisfying. Unless you're like me and Donkey Kong got to you. Gameplay wise, each rally being timed forces you to master your movement through these courses and makes checkpoints being reached feel so rewarding. There are 3 car classes in this game similar to its predecessor, but this time, it's actually done good. Each of the cars are super fun to learn learn through the rallies, and the Hot Rally exclamation point power-up that speeds you up to incredible speeds is ridiculously whimsy and makes every twist and jump feel exhilarating. Though the game is overall simplistic, this has to be one of my favorite racers. Scratch that, one of my favorite games that I've played yet. If you've never played this game or are even curious about Mario Kart's origins, I would highly recommend checking this one out. Oh yeah, I forgot we were making jokes about Donkey Kong instead of actually enjoying games. Donkey Kong Jr. on the Famicom Disk System. It's Donkey Kong Jr. on a disc! Who could have expected that from the name? Unlike its predecessor, this port has literally no differences. Oh boy, I sure wonder what I'm gonna give this game. Super Mario Bros. 2 on the NES. Finally, an American released. Wait a minute. That's Super Dodgeball again! Listen, we all know the secret of this game. Let's just cut to the chase. Crazy Kong Part 2 was a little weird for Nintendo to steal from, but I'm here for it. I like Doki Doki Panic 2, and I only simply like it. Firstly, the graphics and music for this game are a staple of the Mario franchise. I mean, you can't go a minute of a new Mario game without hearing some of the tunes from this game. The mechanics of this game are also iconic. The crouching high jump and especially the throwing mechanics are stupidly fun. I love trying to create chain reactions, digging through sand, and even recreating those crimes that made me like golf. On top of that, a lot of the iconic enemies are ripped straight from Doki Doki Panic, such as the Shy Guys, Phanto, Bob-ombs, Ostro. This game really loves getting its names mixed up, huh? Even the bosses are addicting and tricky to beat, but extremely satisfying once defeated. The amount of new ideas in this game stem a massive part of Mario's legacy, and the variation of different stages and enemies make this game ridiculously fun to get through. But can we just talk about how weird this game is? Let's get one thing straight. Super Mario Bros. 2 is not a Mario game, at least in the traditional sense. This game is simply Doki Doki Panic with a new coat of paint. There's almost no connection to its predecessor, Mario Bros., Donkey Kong, or God forbid the Lost levels, besides what Nintendo randomly changed from Doki Doki Panic. This game just feels wrong to play as a Mario game. On top of that, what is this awful ending? Mario games are supposed to play into the whimsical adventure type story, not a damn dream. Did Nintendo think this was like an M. Night Shyamalan-esque twist? This ending just makes the entire game feel wasted, and in retrospect makes Super Mario Bros. 2 a weird game to play through. All in all, the game is fine, no doubt about that, but it's just not really a Mario game to me. Well, I hope you like the color blue. Donkey Kong Classics on the NES. Because if one more port of Donkey Kong wasn't enough for me, let's just make it two. This port's only difference is the title screen. This is literally just the two respective NES ports with a menu to start them respectively. Talk about a portception, this is just a collection on the same console they were already released on. I really don't have any qualms about the gameplay of this game besides the fact that, well, it exists. Super Mario Bros. 3 for the NES. Oh my God, the greatest gift of gaming. It's no secret that Super Mario Bros. 3 is objectively a highly regarded game, but I could genuinely go on for hours about this amazing experience. Everything from Super Mario Bros. Is majorly overhauled, pushing the NES limits for its physics, music, sprite work, and even the goddamn theming of the game. There are new abilities here, such as the hammer suit, the frog suit, the raccoon leaf, the tanuki suit, and let's talk about this glorious world map. This is the first time that a Mario game feels like a real breathing open world. Not like other great open world games, which I love so much. On top of this beautiful world map, there's an additive menu which allows you to switch power-ups on the fly, which you can get from minigames such as matching or lining up pictures, which is an amazing mechanic that makes me feel like I'm 5 again. With this menu, you can really approach any level with any approach here. Hell, if you wanted to even use the hammer suit in a lava-based level, have at it. You freak. The level design in this game is also amazingly thorough and beautiful. The play theme sets the stage perfectly here, and all the little secrets similar to its predecessor feel perfectly at home here. There are an incredible amount of new ideas brought to the table in this game, and each world feels really unique compared to the previous one. Whether it be the theme, side-scrolling levels, the enemy variations, size differences, or the boss battles, every aspect of this game's levels are ridiculously well thought out and a major improvement from the previous two games. Beating these levels is also incredibly satisfying, with with a new card mechanic that allows you to gain lives and power-ups as you progress. Every little corner of this game is incredibly thought out and so almost perfect. God damn, how could I have problems here? There are really only two small infractions that I can give this game. For one, almost every level is incredibly short. Though there is a ridiculous amount of variation within these levels, only a handful, most of which are the airship levels, are more than around a minute long. It's kind of odd how we give Super Mario Bros. 3 praise for being short, but we absolutely bash Sonic Forces for it. Actually, scrap that. We're not going to defend Sonic Forces today. This game definitely feels more like quantity over quality, and it feels really odd that Nintendo didn't just combine some of these levels to create some amazing experiences. Secondly, this game is where Mario truly becomes the baby franchise. This game is stupidly easy. Listen, I don't want the game to have Mega Man levels of difficulty, but come on. Even World 7 and 8, which have a higher skill ceiling, are able to be cleared extremely easily because 1-ups and P-Wings are given out like candy. This game was simply a cakewalk to get through, and albeit it's extremely fun, I do wish there was a little bit of challenge to it like in its predecessors. Regardless, Super Mario Bros. 3 is an incredible experience. If you haven't played it yet, how did you manage to find this video? This game still stands to this day as one of the most highly regarded games ever made, and I don't think that'll change anytime soon. And let me just tell you, the same could not be said for Donkey Kong on the Atari 7800. I thought I left Atari to die last episode, but somehow they just keep coming back. Okay, trust me when I tell you, this will be the hardest sentence to come out of my mouth since I said Halo Infinite was a good game. This is a surprisingly competent take on Donkey Kong from Atari. What did I say about those pitchforks last time? All things considered, the physics are decent here, and the game is relatively similar to the arcade version. However, you can't fool me, Atari. Just because it's a good Atari game does not mean it's a good game. Firstly, Jesus, oh my god. Mario swings his hammer at such ridiculous Mach speeds in this version, you'd literally think it's a jet engine. Secondly, in 75M, the platforms are still just slightly too small for Mario. I'm not sure what it was about this era and Mario being weirdly large, but we still haven't gotten past that weird growth disease yet. Whatever though, at least this game is relatively polished, especially considering Atari's past. I said Atari's past, not Donkey Kong Jr. on the Atari 7800. It's okay, Atari. I also don't like to give attention to Donkey Kong Jr. compared to the original. Yeah, so this port of Donkey Kong Jr. is not nearly as tuned up as its predecessor. The physics are a little more stiff and janky, the enemies are much faster, similar to the arcade version, and in stage 3, you literally have to phase through the score text to complete the stage. What is it with this era and phasing through reality? Overall, this isn't necessarily as bad as the 2600 and Intellivision ports, but it's simply just another Atari classic. Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me 2 times, shame on you. Fool me 3 times, you must be Mario Brothers for Atari 8-bit home computers. Now, if you feel like you're seeing double, you're not wrong. This is literally just Mario Brothers for the Atari 5600, but worse. I didn't think we could get much worse than the game that already had broke the rules of Mario and the rules of gaming. I mean, this is bad, but are we surprised? Atari has never been good at replicating the success of the original Mario Brothers. You already know what this is gonna get. Let's just move on. They're back? Oh boy, I sure wonder what this game could be. It's f***ing Mario Brothers for the NES. How could the Mario Brothers be returning if they already exist? In all seriousness, there are some improvements here, such as being able to switch direction midair, improve sprite work, and just some general physics changes. So by that logic, the game must be at least an 8 out of 10. There's a second mode of this game called Nagatani End World, which is also just fucking Mario Brothers on the NES. Are you kidding me? But this time, I can consume products. Now, I know what you're thinking. Is that an advertisement in my NES game? What is this, modern gaming? Yeah, nothing screams Mario like dry Japanese ramen and fried rice. On top of the advertisements every other phase, there's also a gambling minigame in which you can gain lives for the main game. Advertisements and gambling? This is modern gaming. Essentially, this means that the game modes essentially boil down to Mario Brothers and Mario Brothers with advertisements. Well, I mean, you know, the answer is obvious here. Purely based on morals, I have to rate this game lower than the original. The product placement just feels incredibly scummy to me. I just don't like this release whatsoever. Alright, fool me 4 times, I'm even worse than Mario Brothers for Atari 8-bit home computers. Mario Brothers for the Atari 7800. This game just sounds like it's screaming for help. Finally, something I can relate to. Not only does this game rival the sound of Donkey Kong on the Amstrad CPC, but it rivals the gameplay of Donkey Donkey Kong on the Atari 2600. This game tries so hard to be the original arcade version, but it just lacks in almost every regard. The sprite work is off, it's still slippery, and the stage doesn't even change color. How can it be a real port of Mario Brothers if the stage doesn't even change color? In all seriousness, this is a really Atari version of Mario Brothers. It's so close to being a decent game, but it just fails in so many different ways. Super Mario Land for the Game Boy. Mom, Nintendo took whatever drugs they were on in 1985 again. This game is criminally underrated, especially for being the Game Boy's pack-in title. Ironically, people know a lot about Super Mario Land. They just don't know they know it. So many parts of this game are now staples of the Mario franchise, such as Princess Daisy, Sarasaland, the music, and... Is that Jock's Offenbach's Can? Does that technically count as a Donkey Kong Jr. reference, or? My favorite aspect of this game is the fact that it's really just the weird byproduct of Super Mario Bros. 1 and 2. This game simultaneously feels right at home with Mario and also like a fever dream. You go to all sorts of weird places here, like the desert, China, Bermuda, Easter Island, and at one point, you fly a spaceship. What, are we in Donkey Kong 3 Daigyakushu? This game plays exactly like the first 3 mainline platformer games of this degree with very little change, but I mean, what more could you ask for? All of these levels are designed amazingly. They don't feel too easy or too hard, they're a solid length per level, include an awesome bonus game at the end, and even the flying levels control beautifully as if they were designed for this franchise from the get-go. Even the Fire Flower, which is completely revamped into more of a punch ball from that one Mario Confederate propaganda game, feels weirdly at home and doesn't overstay its welcome. My only complaint about Super Mario Land is simply its length. With only 4 worlds, it's roughly 30 minutes long, which means it's essentially the same length as Super Mario Brothers. And for being released 5 years later, it's just simply not enough. This game's ending feels incredibly anticlimactic and leaves you dying for more of this type of Mario game. If only there was a sequel that wasn't included in this episode. Overall though, Super Mario Land is a fantastic game that gets overlooked. If you've never tried this one, did you play Super Mario Bros. 3 yet? Baseball on the Game Boy. Who asked for this? Good old baseball. I mean, at least it isn't golf. What could go wrong? Baseball on the Game Boy is an experience. It's effectively the game as the titular title on the NES, but that game worked. This game... Well, when the camera and players are this slow, it makes the game feel like a damn slog to get through. Now, you might be thinking, why is this included in a Mario video? Well, Mario and Luigi are the captains of the baseball teams. I know, it's just so obvious to see here. This was genuinely one of the hardest games to play all the way through so far. Maybe it's because I didn't master the game, but I had to put this game down about halfway through. I genuinely despise this game's control scheme, look, and gameplay, and, well, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I kind of wish I was playing golf right now. Alleyway on the Game Boy. Jeez, Nintendo, you really like the Game Boy this year, huh? This game is, oh my god, that's literally just Breakout. Nintendo is no longer plagiarizing from themselves, they're plagiarizing from their own worst enemy. Yeah, so this game is literally just Atari's Breakout. More than a decade after it released. Wow, I sure wonder why this didn't perform as well as Super Mario Land. The only difference between these two games is that Alleyway has alternating stages, bonus rounds where you shoot through Mario characters, and, well, Mario. Well, I guess I have to rate Breakout lower now. I mean, the game is fun, I genuinely enjoy Breakout, which is also my way of saying I don't get laid, but really, Nintendo? I thought Nintendo copying off of Pong twice was bad, but this is a whole new level of stealing. This game is simply one of those games you'd play on a car ride. It's not necessarily full of substance, but it's just a game to pass the time. It's not bad nor good. It's literally just Atari's Breakout, and there's not much else to it. Tetris for the Game Boy. Good old Tetris. Wait a minute. This is a video about Mario. Yeah, so Mario and Luigi appear in the 2-player mode of specifically the Game Boy port. They oddly don't appear in the NES port for some reason, but Nintendo was really driving home that they just wanted to stick Mario onto anything that had a screen, and you can really feel it here. I thought I was good at Tetris until I played Tetris on the Game Boy. My god, not having hard drops, T-spins, or even being able to hold a block really makes this game reliant on skill, which apparently I just don't have. I can't help but love this game. I mean, after all, this is one of the most iconic games of all time, but playing it these days just feels kinda wrong. But you know what? At least it isn't another copy of Donkey Kong or Golf. Golf on the Game Boy. My dream from baseball on the Game Boy came earlier than expected. What a terrible way to cross into the 90s. This version of golf is almost as bad as baseball on the Game Boy. Almost. I mean, for one, the game is ridiculously harder with harder maps, slower swing speeds, and a very faulty power gauge that just never seems to line up. Why would they make the game harder for the Game Boy? And on top of that, why don't you just make the camera misaligned and impossible to interpret? I was joking! Overall, this is a really poor interpretation of 12, and it's a shame that this game closes out the trek of decent games for the last year, excluding its horrible twin brother. And there it is, ladies and gentlemen, the golden age of Mario. What an interesting ride. I think it's definitely apparent that Nintendo was really looking to get the Mario name out there in any way, and I mean any way that they could. There were some major highlights in this era, as well as some major lowlights, and somehow there are still just way too many copies of Donkey Kong running free in the wild. I'm pretty excited for the next couple years of this franchise. I mean, this is the point of no return where the franchise really starts branching out. But hey, if we hold the quality that some of these games have, we're really looking towards something special in the future. And no, I'm not talking about that type of special.